Havoc? You wanna help me film, buddy? You wanna help me film? And you're gonna get your run in on the treadmill first. How about you, Chaos? You wanna help me film? Chaos. Oh, you're having lunch. Well, sorry guys, I guess you just get me today. Alright, I was able to recruit a helper. Yay! Yay, Havoc. Havoc's gonna help me film. Yay! Come on, buddy. Come on. Let's go film. Let's go film. You ready? Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome back to an episode of Coffee, Cats, and King. We will discuss books, both new and old. I'll share with you pictures of my cats, Havoc. I'll make you wish they're your cats. And now we'll drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. It's kind of a lazy day, so I've got my one of my oversized shirts on. I do have a new mug today. It says Fantasy Readers Book Club. This was part of a giveaway. Maybe talk a bit more about that in another video, kind of show off all the neat little goodies that I ended up winning. But I'm here this week with another weekly wrap-up. I know it's incredible. I'm actually kind of sticking to it and getting these things out in time. It's shocking to me too. This week, the wrap-up consists of 6 books. It's 3 physical books, 2 ebooks, and 1 audiobook. And there is one very special DNF that I'm going to briefly talk about. You may hear some noise in the background. Part of that is the heater going on and off. It's barely 20 degrees here today, if that, so there's no helping that. Normally I'd turn it off just for the noise factor, but I just can't do that. It's too expensive to cut it off, cut it back on kind of deal. And 2, the boys are kind of rambunctious and rowdy, and I actually have the door open today, so they're running back and forth playing. So, and there they go. So we just totally ignore that. Might be in the background. Yeah, so weekly wrap up from the 14th to the 20th. 6 books read, 1 special DNF. Normally I won't talk about the DNFs, but this one I really feel like I need to talk about just very briefly. So let's go on and get into it. First book that I finished in this week was Brynne Weaver's Butcher and Blackbird. This has been a tremendously popular book on the romance side of BookTube, and this was the book for this month that Paige gave me to read. Try and do that buddy read thing, either read one together or swap books every month. So this is what she gave me for January. So I'm not going to give it a rating or talk about it just yet, because here in the next, hopefully, week, you will see a video where I talk about this and she talks about what I gave her. But know that I did read Butcher and Blackbird, and I have some thoughts. Next, I want to very briefly talk about my DNF. Now, I said when I picked these 50 books that I have to read this year that I was not going to DNF any of them. I said I was going to read them, therefore I'm going to read them, darn it. And then I very promptly lied after getting 10 pages into the Savage Report 1994, which is almost even funnier because I've had this book saved on my shelves for a few years now. Saving it for my 30th birthday because I was born in 1994. And I don't know, some symbolic crap or whatever. But I had to give up on this. And I gave up on it, like I said, I mean 10 pages in. There is This book, sorry. This book is just so wrong. There was no way I was going to read it. There was no way I was going to be able to get through it. And I'm going to share a passage with you. And I will warn you that there are very offensive things happening in this passage. So before I read this passage, I'm going to put up a little timestamp thing here so that people who want to skip that part can skip that part. Because it's going to be triggering for some of you. Ready? Okay. Keep in mind, this is 10 pages into the book. Although it seemed like a long time ago, it was less than half an hour since Jack first sat down at that same bar stool in order to drink from the sultry Viking goddess who was glaring at him across the slab of polished mahogany. She was quite a specimen, well over 6 feet tall, long butter-yellow braids falling to either side of her breast, gold slave bracelets encircling both her bronzed biceps. A tapestry of mirrors and bottles formed a motley backdrop for her beauty, and Jack had duly registered her look of defiance, as well as the erotic potential of that incredible body. There was a time, he mused, when bartenders were nice fellows with paunches and racing tips. What was the world coming to? Jonathan Emmerich Anderson had a well-controlled and selective obsession for women, and in that sense he considered himself to be old-fashioned and unliberated. He cultivated his heterosexual decadence with detachment, but he loved his state of dependence and treasured his archaic emotions. In a world that had long since traveled beyond bisexuality, he was proud to be old-fashioned, sexy, open to any and all feminine seductions, a happy dinosaur, a man who rarely slept with more than 2 women at the same time, and never ever felt the need for a boy. Women in the 90s were quite different from what they were in his college days. Super smart, ultra-educated, ruthless, competitive, in and out of the sack. Modern women were taking royal revenge against the male race for centuries of what they called oppression. Terrific teasers with a hangman's instinct. There were still quite a few women one would be able to talk to and do other things with, thank God. But it took the training of a super voyeur to avoid ugly surprises. Fortunately, Jack was confident that he had it under control. He knew that even that butch barkeep in front of him could still be turned around. By him. And she knew it. That's why she was sending him those furious vibes. He looked her up and down, and their eyes met. She winced visibly as he flashed his most insulting macho grin at her. That's 10 pages in, guys. I can't read this. It's, you want to talk about toxic. That just may take the cake. So, after having this book in my possession for going on 4 years now, and waiting for my 30th birthday, I got 10 pages in and just can't stand it. If I was the type to do awful things to books, I would do something awful to this book. Because I don't even want to just give it away to a Goodwill or something, because some poor unfortunate soul is going to pick that up. And what's worse is someone out there would pick it up and think that this is good writing, and that, I think, bothers me even more. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I'm not going to read it. So, moving on to the books that I did read, however, the second book that I actually finished was Elle Burke with A Fang to Remember. And I kind of talked about this in my last video. This was a cozy mystery that I picked up. And this is about a secluded little town of vampires. This woman, this main character of ours, she runs a pet boutique / pet store. And part of the intrigue here is that it has representation for disabled and handicapped characters, because she has a debilitating disease that puts her in constant pain in her extremities and makes it very difficult for her to get around. So therefore, partway through this book, she does get a wheelchair, and it's just one of the sweetest moments when she gets this wheelchair. This book was it was very heartwarming and delightful, despite the fact that a major part of it is trying to solve a murder that occurs in the bakery next door to her shop. But that said, it's very humorous and silly. Again, this is a town of vampires. This is kind of set in a world where most people don't know that vampires exist. but some do. There are a few that are in the know, and they help them to run these little vampire towns, if you will. And vampires are very different from what we get in our modern literature. Now, this is written in a way that some people won't enjoy. It's a first-person narrative, and there are times where it seems that she is talking directly to you, the reader. Normally, I find it kind of aggravating. This time, because I think I was looking for the coziness of something like this, I found it somewhat endearing. The book as a whole was just what you want in a cozy mystery, which is really nice because I haven't had much luck with cozy mysteries in the past. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. There were some moments that didn't quite resonate with me, and just a few things that, some archaic turns of phrase that I felt maybe didn't work so well in this case. And I apologize, it sounds like my voice is going out on me. I'm still fighting this illness, this stuff. So I gave this 4.5 stars though, and it was actually a really enjoyable cozy mystery, something a little bit different, and certainly bonus points though for the inclusion of a character with disability. The next physical book that I read was one that was highly anticipated, and one that also came from the 50 books that I said I had to read this year. That is Alex Woodroe with Whisperwood. And this is a really interesting one about a woman who has run away from her little town, her little village, where she is accused of witchcraft, actually by her lover. She is set to be killed. She ends up escaping into the woods, finds this old man and starts traveling with him basically. He is going to this little town. She just kind of decides on a whim that she is going to go there and live there. And the townspeople are not particularly receptive of this in the beginning. And as she learns very quickly, this town is weird. There are things going on here that reminded me, honestly, a lot of it gave me the same kind of feeling that I had while watching The Village from M. Night Shyamalan, which is a movie that I really love, so it made me very excited. It's not just a straight horror or anything like that. It's much more on the fantasy side. That said, it's a very enjoyable book. There are elements, I think, that could have been worked out better, plot points that got lost or muddled somewhat, which is kind of expected in a way because this is a first novel from Alex Woodroe. But that said, I really enjoyed my time in this world. 4 stars, and I'll be looking out for more from her in the future. Next up was my first play of the year. This is August Wilson with Fences, and this was sent to me by Troy, who you all know I love that guy. He's awesome. Fantastic writer. If you haven't checked out his books, I have them up here with my signed books, right alongside another good friend of mine, Mr. Elle, going back. But Troy is he's a delight. He's a wonderful guy, very intelligent. If you're not watching his videos, you should be. He has a lot to say about books, about the publishing industry, and about screenwriting and playwriting as well, because he has experience in all these things. So very intelligent man there. And honestly, you should probably be watching his videos instead of mine. But that said, this came from him because it is a play that he has a strong affinity for, and I totally get it. I ate this thing up in one sitting. It is very short. It's 100 pages, but I swear in a half hour I was done with this. I would jump at the chance to have seen this play because it just sounds like it would be an amazing experience. But this was 5 stars for me. I am not a gentleman that has read many plays or experienced many plays, so I don't have a lot to go on in that regard. But this book had me laughing. It had me mad. It had me going through a little bit of an emotional roller coaster within 100 pages. And I don't know what that equates to in regards to a play. I don't know if 100 pages is a lot or a little. but I do know that I enjoyed every second of this, and that I wish it had been longer. If this is any indicator that I have really been missing out, this is going to stick with me. Next up was the only audiobook on this list. This is Midnight in the Graveyard, edited by Kenneth Cain. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. It started out very strong, and for the first probably 5 or 6 stories, I thought this was going to be 5-star. Obviously, this is an anthology, so of course there's a certain level of sameness. Part of my issue is that this was a very long anthology, and I think that there were a few stories in there that could have been taken out altogether, and this would have been a stronger, more cohesive anthology because of it. But as it went on, there were just some that really brought the rating down. And the last couple, again, were very strong, but just something happened in the middle of there. Take a few out, make it shorter. Still would have been a long anthology anyway, and would have been a better one. But 3.5 stars as it is. And I will say, I think part of it as well was the narrator for this one. Again, I will put that out there, that perhaps if I had read this rather than listen to it, maybe it would have made it to a 4-star. But the narrator was not my favorite, and I think maybe towards the end he was starting to grate on me a little. So again, I should take that into consideration, but I have to rate it as I experienced it, and this is how I experienced it. It's 3.5 stars at the end of the day for Midnight in the Graveyard. And then the final one that I read was a short story collection that was sent to me for review. This is Kevin Bachar with Creep. This was 21 stories from him. These are very much in the realm like Reddit's No Sleep, and from the brevity of authors that have come from there. So if you are a fan of Tobias Wade, if you are a fan of Blair Daniels, who I think is helping him with this, then these are the type of stories for you. That said, I gave this one 3.5 stars as well. Again, somewhat of a mixed bag. I do plan to do a more in-depth review on Goodreads, where I can pull out some particular stories to talk about. But he had some unique ideas in his stories. It's just the execution on some of them did fall flat. I think some of them were just lacking in substance. Some of them were so short, it was like they just went for a quick punch and it was done with, There are certainly some standout stories in this. Again, I'll talk more about it on Goodreads in a more in-depth review. So that is all that I read from the 14th through the 20th. As far as what I'm reading now, ebook, I am on the follow-up to A Fang to Remember, which is the Tell Fang Heart. This one, I think, is about someone that is going around killing vampires in the town. So, sounds like maybe stakes raised a bit, but we'll see how it goes. As far as audiobooks, I'm about to start The Influence by Bentley Little. I have realized that Bentley Little is kind of a comfort author for me, which sounds weird if you've read his stuff, but I guess I pick up his books because I know that it's going to have an interesting concept. There's going to be a lot of silliness, a lot of over-the-top horror, violence, and sex. And even though the books aren't always that great, there's just something comforting about them for me. So The Influence is my next audiobook. And as far as physical books go, I am partway into Peter Dudar's The Goat Parade, with this very interesting cover here, back cover there. I don't know if you can tell, there's a man within this eye screaming his head off. This is a really interesting book so far. This is one, as soon as I read about it, I knew I had to pick it up, because I'm just convinced that this is going to be a hidden gem. You guys will hear about it soon. Find out whether I'm right or whether this is another case of Savage Report 1994. So that's where I'm at right now. Feel free to catch me up down below on what you folks are reading. And I'm going to call it quits here, because obviously my voice is just going to give out on me. So, yay. I hope you all stay safe, Have a great week, weekend, whenever it is that you're watching this. And most importantly, drink great coffee. Cheers.